Okay, here we go. Took me a little extra time here to set up this morning. I've had technical issue after technical issue, but I won't bore you with all of my problems. Today, I want to talk about the murder of Brian Thompson, the UnitedHealthcare, aka UHC CEO. This is completely tragic on a lot of levels. I want to start out by saying, at the time of this recording, Luigi Mangione has been arrested as a suspect. Let's all remember that people are innocent until proven guilty. I think that's a whole other topic, but presumably people are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And that Brian Thompson was a man, he was a person, and he was a father and someone's son, and people loved him. So condolences out to the family and everyone negatively affected by this. I'm sure even Luigi Mangione's family seems to be pretty tore up and affected by his arrest and the accusations. This video is not a forensic analyst or a true crime investigator or journalist or anything like that. I have been working in insurance for 20 years, and I have my own experiences and opinions of the healthcare system and the UHC CEO. And on top of that, I am a human behavior nerd. For those of you who like resumes and things like that before, for me to share my credibility, not only have I been in the insurance industry for 20 years, but I also studied sociology at a university, UCSB, for several years. And since then, just self-study, just self-interest, reading anything from personal help books to sociology like studies and interests and just human behavior, and even HR and marketing is its own. You're trying to influence people to change their behavior, or you're trying to influence people to do something. For example, in HR, when open enrollment comes around, your HR manager will use tactics and communications to influence and tell the employees that they need to do X, Y, and Z, or this result will happen. And that's a marketing strategy. And then also in marketing, we go out in the world and we come up with a deal or a call to action, some sort of offer out to the public, and in an effort to get a response from the public and have them buy our things. So anyway, all of these ancillary studies also tie into my general interest in sociology and human behavior. Okay, so with all that said, this is a mess. This is a total mess. It's just been, I think a lot of what we're going through right now is going to be studied extensively by human behavior experts, psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, there's so many facets of culture right now that I find absolutely fascinating. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on all the other things that are going on, everything from music to comedy to the presidential election and to this. And all the layers that I have seen and I have noticed of public reaction and the difference between mainstream media and the billionaires and the rich guys and the CEOs and the executives to the underlings. The middle class kind of has their own reaction, and then you have I see a class warfare over this thing, and I don't really know how else to describe it. And I think I'll get into that later, because that I think is more complicated, and I think it's pretty sensitive, and I understand all of these perspectives. Okay, and I'm going to try to minimize my emotion about the topic and just talk about the facts. None of the views that I'm going to talk about here are really meant to be taken very seriously. It's more just my observations as to how I'm seeing people react. And I want to put in some more disclaimers and framing before I get into some of those more sensitive topics. I already covered that Brian Thompson is a human. Let's not all forget that Brian Thompson is a human. The other thing that I have noticed is that people are taking their anger of the healthcare system and putting it all onto this one person. And they're viewing Luigi Mangione like Robin Hood. He's getting this kind of story put behind him like he's a vigilante and he's an activist and he's doing a good thing for the public through this murder. And I think that there's a lot of problems with that train of thought. And I'll get into that as well. Some of the way that I think about these things and the way that I digest this information and kind of it's just the way I think about it. And I think a lot of people are taking moral high grounds on this. There's like this moral high ground that the system is broken and the only way to fix it is through violence, and yeah, these CEOs better be upset and they better be thinking twice before they do X, Y, and Z. And then there's this other moral high ground that there's no reason to ever kill anyone ever, and this is, bad because everyone that's saying that the death of this person is good is just inherently bad and evil. And so there's this, and again, I'm putting it into two buckets. I know that's kind of like a false dichotomy, but those are some of the extremes, and there's a spectrum of reactions in between that, and then probably one in the middle is indifference, where people are really just looking at this and saying, well, maybe he wasn't that great of a guy, and yeah, I'm kind of, if you're CEO of a healthcare company, then you must not be like the greatest person ever, and so therefore your death is kind of like, whatever, right? So there's also that indifference category, which I also think has to do with the influx of information that we have in our daily lives, and the influx and the speed of information that comes to us every day, and we're almost expected to have this instant reaction, and that our first reaction is supposed to be the correct reaction, and our first emotion is supposed to be the correct emotion, and if we almost are expected to stand behind that emotion and defend it till our death. Even if there's all these other perspectives, and again, I'm going to try not to do that. So back to the point of what I believe is happening with the people that are joyful, the people that are happy and celebrating the death of this CEO. I even heard yesterday people are putting wanted posters out in New York for other CEOs, and then also pictures of Brian Thompson with an X over his face. Again, putting all of this anger for the system into one person or a handful of people just doesn't seem right. It just seems like a fallacy, of incorrect way of thinking about this. So want to bring that forward first. And then justifying a death by saying the system is bad and therefore the person, a CEO, they're the head, right? So they must be, cut off the head of the snake. That's how you fix something, right? Or that's how, you stab it in the heart, kill the bad guy, kill the monster in the movie. And that's one of the things about I'm going to kind of digress a little bit here. So when this land in America was conquered, by the conquistadors and by the white people, the people from Europe, came over, and the Indians were very, there was one leader, there was a chief, and everybody kind of followed the chief. And if the chief was killed, then, it was this huge loss to that tribe, and, it wasn't immediately replaced. Where we're more institutionalized, the European systems were more institutionalized systems than these ancient tribal systems. And if the leader in battle was fought, there was someone right behind them to come up and take their place. So it's very difficult to kill an institution. You don't just go to the head and stab him, and then the system falls apart and the institution falls apart and all is well, or that bad guy is gone. No, there are systems in place in the institution that replace those leaders. And so even if the solution was to get rid of this institution altogether, then getting rid of the head wouldn't work either, because the next person in line comes up and takes the place, and the system continues, the institution continues. Okay. And also another kind of train of thought here is that, okay, just because someone is the head of a system, does that inherently make them evil? Maybe in some cases, maybe not. So in this case, obviously everyone's angry at the healthcare system. The healthcare system is broken. I'm not going to sit here and say that the healthcare system is not broken. I agree. I think it is broken. I think insurance companies and a lot of the people that are working within insurance companies are doing the best they can. And I'm going to kind of walk through that in a moment. So let's empathize for a moment with the CEO. Let's pretend that we are then given this position of CEO. Somebody comes to you and says, we think you're the best person for this job. Lead this publicly traded company, and your objectives are to increase profit margin, increase sales in Medicare, and bring forward a culture that helps the company grow, something like that. You may be given 3 objectives for the year from the board, and you are left with trying to figure out how to make it all work and cohesive and be a leader and communicate to the rest of the leaders in the organization and inspire them to make change, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're given that position. In that CEO position, it's not like you just snap your fingers and say, hey, everybody, let's go from paying 15%, or let's go from paying 85% of our claims to now let's deny 70% of them. And, I just snap my fingers and make that change up or down. Doesn't necessarily work like that. It's a huge company. Does the CEO have a lot of influence? Yes, of course they do. They are the CEO. People inherently listen to authority in our culture. However, my point is that there are board members and systems in place already that are hard to and difficult to unwind. So we are born into this place, right? How do I say this? Just break it down into super, super simple. Okay, so we landed here from the mothership. We were born here. The healthcare was already set up the way healthcare is set up. For example, me, I was born in the United States. We already had an existing healthcare system. No one asked me if, I thought that things should change or how the system should be run. And we inherited this system that has been around for generations, and unwinding that. And we're taught, certain things along the way that this is just as you have the choice between HMO and PPO, and HMO and PPO, and that's just what you get, and that's just the way it is. And we go, oh, okay, and then our naive little innocent brains learn about HMO and PPO, and then we go on and learn about how the system works, and not to say that's bad or anything, but that's just how it works. We get here and we inherit the system, and you know what? Brian Thompson also inherited this system, and I didn't know him. Probably everybody listening to this video didn't know him. I don't know his character traits. I would assume that he's a very hard worker, for one. People in CEO positions tend to be extremely dedicated to their work. I know he was a CPA. Again, just being a CPA isn't inherently bad. Someone that understands math and wants to work through problems and find efficiencies and knows numbers and looks at it from that perspective is not inherently bad. You can do a lot of good things with improving efficiencies and improving dollar spend. And my point is, we don't know what his intentions were. We don't know who he was as a person. There is absolutely no way to sit there and say, this is a good idea. This is something that was a good thing. And I'll even put it on myself. So because I'm a broker in health insurance and I sell health insurance to businesses, now do I deserve to be murdered in the street because I sell insurance policies to businesses? I mean, it's a legitimate question. It's, the way I look at it, and again, most people probably don't know me, but I look at it as, the system is broken, but good people need to be in the system to help interpret the system. It's very confusing. It's like learning a whole other language. There's a bunch of lingo and mumbo jumbo, and people can get lost in the minutia, and I'm there to be my client's advocate so that when a claim does get denied, we help make sure that the insurance is paying what it's supposed to be paying. And is it a lot of work? Yes, it's a lot of extra work to make sure that the insurance company is holding up to paying out what they agreed to. And again, I'm not an attorney. This is not, none of my advocacy services are legal advice, but we do what we can. And I've always had great success with pushing insurance companies. And yes, a lot of them do have a system where they deny first and ask questions later. And if the patient and the customer don't go in and fight and don't respond to letters and denials and appeals and keep communication going with the insurance company, yes, they will just deny and say, okay, great, we denied it and we don't have to pay. And it's not great. It's not great. But I believe that there needs to be people like me watching all sides, and like a broker in a real estate deal. I mean, could you imagine going in and buying a property all on your own and having to look through all of those contracts and be expected to know what each and every legal term means without an insurance agent, without a broker? Some people do it, and that's great. That's their prerogative. However, I think that it's better to use an agent and someone that understands all of the very specific real estate lingo and laws in your state, laws in your county and city and so on, similar with insurance. So again, just because I sell a policy, does that then make it where I'm the bad guy? Am I now a bad person? No, obviously I don't think so. So to put all of the onus of the entire system on this one person is just absolutely ludicrous. And I think if people would think through some of the thoughts and feelings around this, they might change their mind. But I'm not sure. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. But I just think philosophically, it's not right to blame an entire system that we inherited. We all inherited. We were all born, well, hopefully, presumably everybody that's listening to this was born on Earth. And, I was born in the United States, and there was this system already here. And I learned about the system, and my thoughts were, okay, how do I get in here and help people understand this crazy system and protect people from getting screwed over as much as possible? So perhaps that CEO had the same mindset. We don't know. Again, we didn't know Brian Thompson. I didn't know him. Probably everybody that's listening to this didn't know him, and it's not fair to push that forward and say it was a justified killing because the system is broken. Also, just one little nitpicky thing that's driving me crazy is United. So we've got United Health Group, and then we have UnitedHealthcare. United Health Group has multiple companies, all of which is, above my pay grade as far as, is it ethical, is it not ethical? I would imagine that there's some room for improvement there. But I hear a lot of people calling it United. I think of United as an airline company. The abbreviation for UnitedHealthcare is UHC, so that's what I'm using in here, is the abbreviation that us insurance nerds who have worked in insurance for some time usually refer to UnitedHealthcare as UHC. United Health Group. Okay, so UHC. There's a lot of laws and guidelines and requirements that insurance companies have to meet in order to just be an insurance company, right? That's one. They have to have a certain amount in reserves. They have to have reinsurance, which means their insurance, they buy insurance, and there's lots of vendors that they use in order to make healthcare work. All right, and on top of that, in the bucket of legislation, specifically with ACA plans, Affordable Care Act plans, insurance companies are not allowed to make over a certain amount. I think it's 3.5%, right? United Health Group, I believe, don't quote me on this, are a publicly traded company. If you care that much, you can look it up yourself. But I believe UnitedHealthcare Group has a profit of 6%. So the way that they get there, again, presumably, I'm just using kind of some assumptions, drawing some lines based off of the information that I know from working in the industry. The delta between a 3.5% profit margin from the ACA medical insurance, which is so of the money, of the billions of dollars this company brings in a year, most of that is spent on claims. So it's not like, when people are saying, oh, they bring in more money than the Googles and than this and that, or they're the top 4 in the US. Yes, but most of that premium, most of that money is given away in salaries and healthcare costs. And the biggest dollar amount spent is on healthcare costs. So as much as I'm not saying, I know people are going to take this however they want, and that's not my problem. That's your problem or their problem, or the person that gets all fidgety about me bringing forward facts on how our healthcare system works, or at least the insurance side of it works. You can see, if you look at the numbers, that the most of the money that is collected on the insurance side is through medical insurance. And if you look at medical insurance, most of the money, it's usually around 85%. It's called a loss ratio. 85% usually is what is spent on medical claims. So yes, the number is really big, but it's money in, money out most of the time. And arguably, that is why this delay, deny, defend, which was a book. I believe he was referencing a book, or presumably the person that etched the bullets with that may or may not be Luigi Mangione, innocent until proven guilty, all that stuff. Maybe one of the incentives why deny, delay, defend is a practice in insurance claims, because if you are looking at every single quarter and your profitability over every quarter in a publicly traded company, if you delay a payout for a certain amount of time, then it's not an actual loss. However, you do have to record in insurance, you have to record outstanding claims or pending claims. There's claims lag. Like, for example, if a company is self-insured, you start today, right? Let's pretend you're an employer and you say, screw all these insurance companies, I don't want to pay them, so I'm going to pay my own claims. There's companies that do this, right? For those of you who don't know, there are companies that say, no, we're not paying you, Mr. Insurance Company. We are the insurance company. So what they'll do is they'll buy reinsurance, which is a big risk management strategy, to where if a claim goes over $100,000, there's an insurance company that will pick that up. It's called a reinsurance or stop loss coverage. Anyway, not going to get in the weeds on that, but yes, they have some insurance. These employers have some insurance for big, fat claims, and which may sound crazy to some of you. However, I've seen $1 million preemie claims. Okay, it happens. There's $1 million babies out there. It's not so uncommon. Also, prescriptions. It's not uncommon now to see a $20,000 a month prescription. Okay, someone has to pay for this. It's not, the system. So again, just coming from the insurance perspective, not a healthcare person, not a doctor. I'm not here to judge the healthcare system, really, because I don't know too much about it, but I will tell you, I see claims come in and out, and these insurance companies are paying claims, and the costs are real, and they're not fake dollars. They do pay them, and someone has to pay it. So if you, the employee, are paying, let's say, even $1,000 a month for your healthcare, and you're taking a $20,000 a month prescription, how is any business supposed to operate in that way? Or who's going to pay for all that? Like, there's no big money fairy that comes down and just takes care of it because it's the right thing to do. Someone has to figure out how to make the dollars and cents, line up. So the idea is you have to get enough people in the plan that don't spend $20,000 a month on their prescriptions to help offset that cost. And that's exactly what insurance companies do. That they say, here's the pie of people that we have. We have, 20% that are spending this much, 50% that are spending this much, and the other percentage that don't go to the doctor at all. And they have to figure out what the average cost is for each of those individuals based off their age and their zip code, and that's it. That's all they're allowed to use. They're not allowed to use health information. Okay, so to get back to the delay, deny, defend point I was getting to about claims lag. So the way I think about claims lag is, probably the first place I learned about it was in self-funding. And so again, let's pretend that you are an employer and you've decided to forego a traditional insurance plan, medical insurance plan for your employees. And you buy a reinsurance plan, a stop loss plan, where if a claim hits over $100,000 or an employee's claims over the year hit over $100,000, the reinsurance carrier picks that up. And for everything else under that amount, you, the employer, are responsible for. And in that, starting day one, most employers love it because there's no claims. That first month, there's no claims that come in usually, maybe some pharmacy claims here and there, because pharmacy is an electronic process similar to vision, and some dental now. The claims processing, the pharmacy enters in your information online, it gets sent to the insurance carrier, and it's processed immediately. So those retail pharmacy claims you'll see right away. with self-funding. And with going, let's say, to a hospital, those claims can take 6 months. I mean, the most contracts, they have a timely filing provision in that contract. So when the insurance company like UHC or Anthem or Blue Cross Blue Shield goes to a hospital, your local hospital, and they say, hey, let's sign a contract. Within that contract, that doctor or that hospital, whoever's signing that contract, is agreeing to submit claims on the member's behalf so that the member doesn't have to sit there and fill out the claim form. You only have to do that if you go out of network, and those out of network providers are out of network because they don't have a contract with your insurance company. There's nothing written down in ink. They have no agreement, so it's out of network. There's no control. The insurance company doesn't have any control over whether or not they file claims, how much they're charging you, any of that. Where when they sign a contract with your doctor or your hospital, your doctor or hospital is agreeing to exact amounts for each and every procedure that they do. And that's pre-negotiated. And they also have that timely filing provision, which, like I said, is usually 6 months. And sometimes hospitals do it within the first 30 days, most of them, but sometimes it does take 6 months to get a claim in. So that self-funded employer, the first couple of months, they're going to be going through and rolling through and saying, wow, this is really low. We've only got, $10,000 worth of claims, and this is looking really great, where we were used to paying $100,000 plus in premiums, and they're like rocking and rolling, loving it. And then, month 2, it's a little bit more. Month 3, it's a little bit more. Month 4, and then once you get to month 6, 7, 8, 9, certainly by the end of your first year, you have you can start building up a running average. That's why a lot of these level funded plans, so level funded plan is where it's a self-funded plan, but the insurance company is controlling all of it. So they kind of set up a fund for you, and they manage that fund for you, and they're paying claims under that $50,000 usually deductible for you and giving you reports on that. But it's really all managed by the insurance company. And they usually have, 2 years where they will at least release renewals for you. So, for example, when people go level funded, self-funded, they worry about non-renewals, right? So that first year, there usually isn't a non-renewal because the insurance companies don't have enough information. They don't see what your claims are for that first year, really. They don't really know what type of claims activity they're going to be seeing until the second renewal. And yes, sometimes that second renewal is usually the big renewal. Most people get, and when they get to a new insurance carrier in large group or in self-funding or level funding, they get kind of a standard increase that first year, and then the second year they're actually rated. The underwriter will look at it and actually re-rate the group. And again, that's for large group. Small group, all the rates are predetermined, pre-filed. There's that whole 3.5% profitability built in on the insurance company's end and all that. I'm just stating about claims lag. So that's what claims lag is. Day one on starting a new plan, the insurance company has no idea what the claims are going to be until usually 2 years later, because they're looking at averages. They're looking at, and there's not enough data until you've been on the plan for several years. So the deny, delay, defend argument is that if the insurance company gets a claim and they automatically deny it, that delays the claims payout process, possibly for another quarter, so that publicly traded company isn't reporting on the loss of that claim until perhaps the following quarter, or the following quarter, or the following quarter, depending on how long they delay. And those codes have to link up to a diagnosis code that makes sense with that procedure code. So there's computer programs and software that meet those two together and will say whether or not it's denied or it'll be paid, if it's an approved thing or it needs pre-approval. And if something goes wrong in the system and it automatically denies it, and then an actual person has to look at it, the amount of money that it takes to fix the glitch in the software has to outweigh the amount of salary that they're paying that actual person to review it. So if the amount of money to have someone review these kinds of claims that are getting denied automatically, it might be on average $10,000 for that specific type of claim that's getting denied in their system if it has this and this together. Or a more rare condition, or a more rare condition with a more synced with a more rare diagnosis that's linked to a uncommon procedure for that diagnosis. Or the code 9999 is like, experimental, and they just deny that one automatically, and that's not even reviewed, it's just automatically denied. So, and sometimes I think it's cheaper just to have a person review it, and then they have 30 days, so they kind of push it to the very end. I've noticed a lot of these claims, you submit an inquiry, they have kind of like 30 days to process the claim, so maybe they get back to you on day 21, and then you review it, and like the sooner you get back to them, and then maybe it's another 21 days that they go before they respond in the next thing, and so each communication is like a month, right? It's just like, and then there's holidays. So we just had a holiday, and it absolutely drives me crazy that all these people take time off in healthcare and in health insurance for, okay, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, I get it. But to take the last 2 weeks off, when I first started, I was not allowed to do that. That was like a big no-no at our little brokerage. It was just like, you do not take time off. We are like CPAs at tax season. You need to be working. You need to be on call. You need to be checking your emails. People are getting their ID cards. More people renew January 1st than December 1st. There for a while, it was like that because people were trying to avoid the ACA plan. So everybody went a month prior for 12/1. So like December 1 is kind of common because of that, but mostly everybody renews January, so many people renew Jan 1, and that's just the way it is. And if you don't like it, then don't be in the industry. I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, people still take time off, and then they have to. They work for large companies that they probably get sued by the employees if they didn't allow, these time off, and so they do it. And so you go and you try to submit an application, everybody's gone and the lights are on, but no one's home. Maybe there's like one poor lady working in that one department processing all these, so it just gets backlogged. And some of that backlog doesn't get cleared up until February. And it's so, yeah, the amount that gets, you have to look at what they're being rewarded for doing, right? In any system, if a company is being rewarded for, denying first, and, hey, actually have a real person that we pay a salary to review the claim. If that person's salary is less than, cumulatively all of the claims that come in that category, let's keep that process. If not, then, let's just go ahead and pay it out. So I think that's some of it, systems-wise and processing-wise. And again, I don't think it's any one person's fault. It's a very complicated system. The other part I was going to get to is, so the profit margin. So I know I'm hearing people talk about the, billions of dollars in profit. Okay, 6-8%. I don't want to balk at it. I know it's a large number. That's the argument is, yes, it's a low percentage, but it's a large number. And again, I know I said this before, it's kind of like money in, money out. Healthcare, you pay $1,000 a month and for, let's say, health insurance, and $850 of that typically is spent on claims of that premium. So 85% typically is the amount. That's the amount they aim for through the ACA, and most people do have an ACA compatible plan, and it is federally regulated. So we know that, that 15% goes to like marketing and salaries and profit margin and all that. And that's just for the health insurance though. So keep that in mind. So when I see like the 3.5%, that was kind of the amount that was being thrown out there during ACA, and you still have dental and life insurance and disability insurance. So huge profitable areas are the dental and the vision. So the dental plan, let's say, is, you go, what do you get with the dental plan? You go and you get your cleaning. What is it, $100 a month for a great dentist to give you x-rays and a cleaning on average, probably. So that's $200 if you were to pay out of your own pocket, I'm saying. And then the average dental plan pays out $1,000 a year. Okay. And most of the time, the loss ratio on these kinds of plans are like 50%. So they're making, especially with like the Delta Dentals, and I hate calling companies out, but, they're not the only ones, but a lot of, I always ask when I get a renewal and somebody's getting an increase, I'm like, what's the loss ratio? And if they have a good loss ratio that's, in the 70s or below, I say, great, thank you so much. Thank you for the renewal. Is there any way we can bring this down? Yes or no, maybe so. They tell me. And then I take that email and I put it in my RFP. Like, hey, other insurance companies, check this out. These guys, they are at a 55% loss ratio. Don't you want this? This is a great group. You'd be making, you can bring their rates down. So bring the benefits up, let's get them a better plan, and you can still make some money. So these are all things that if people are asleep at the wheel and they're not negotiating, especially on the dental division, just leaving some benefits on the table. So my point is, those ones are more profitable. So that's how you kind of get up in those percentages. Obviously the premiums are a lot less, so people are paying 30, 50, 60, 70, 80 sometimes for very rich dental benefits per employee. Maybe you're paying that $80, but when you compare that to the premiums of medical, it's just so much smaller. And then vision, there's $3 vision plans. There's $15 vision plans. It just, again, depends on the network. It depends. Do you have VSP? Do you have IMED? Do you have some of the cheaper networks, or do you have the big bad VSP network? Totally different premiums that you're going to be looking at. I would say probably the average is like $7 per employee for that sort of plan. So you pay $7. That is $84 a year. What's your benefit? Oh, you get a eye exam for a $10 copay, and you get glasses or contact lenses for $120. Okay, so I give you $85. Half of the people aren't even going and getting glasses. So hey, wait a minute, you're making a good, I see what you did there. You know what I mean? So to me, dental and vision are insurance. Like, I don't even really like to because to me, insurance is supposed to be there to save you from bankruptcy. The whole point of insurance is to ensure that you're not going to lose your ass if something bad happens. Are you going to lose your house because you didn't get a $120 vision benefit? No. Are you going to lose your ass if you don't get an extra $1,000 off your dental? No. Now, with that said, I will acknowledge dental is crazy expensive now. Sorry if you hear the in my hair, but yeah, dental is so expensive, and this is the reason why when I do, and part of the thing is, as an employer, if you offer medical, you kind of have to offer dental and vision. It's like expected from the employees, and the rates are low enough where it's like, okay, we add an extra, let's say $50 per employee per month. The employees stop bitching about not having dental and vision. Like, let's throw it on there, make everybody happy, get it done. And it just sounds better when you're recruiting people. Hey, we have a full dental plan. We have a full benefits plan. We have medical, dental, vision, life insurance, disability. You can just kind of bundle it all together. You get bundling discounts. There's lots of ways to make it make sense, and so I'm not completely shitting on dental and vision, although I am just a little bit, but part of it is because people expect it, right? People expect it from their employer, so the employers offer it. And it's a benefit. I see it as a benefit. It's a nice add-on. It's not something, again, that's going to save your ass if something bad happens. And with the dental, it drives me crazy that the average plan still only offers $1,000 max benefit. It's better than nothing. I'm not going to poo-poo on anyone that is offering a dental plan to their employees. It does show that you care, you're going above and beyond, you're offering probably medical and vision and life insurance too. And typically employers that do that really do care about their employees. They really see the value of having good people on their team, and that their team is a reflection of their business, and the better their team, the better their business does, and more they sell, and so on and so forth. So, but with that said, I like to kick it up every time I get a new client. I'm like, hey, can we just please look at a $3,000, a $5,000, an unlimited dental plan? I mean, dental, it's not uncommon for people to have $7,000, $10,000 dental bills. If they get a couple, root canals or something going on in their mouth, it's under the major category. You're signing up for the care credit plan, with the credit card, monthly payments. So certainly something that I like to do, but again, that's kind of off topic. And my point is that dental and vision are more profitable than the medical insurance. Now, a lot of these insurance companies, and I went over this in my PBM video, if you can stand it, it's very long, it's very detailed. It's for those of you that want to nerd out and really try to understand more about how our crazy health insurance, health finance, business system works, because it's really more like a bank financing your healthcare over your lifetime than it is, I think, what people imagine it to be. Maybe more like what their parents had in a union or something like that. The UnitedHealthcare group, so UHC is just the insurance part. So it's just the health insurance, dental insurance, vision, life, disability. So it's individual, I believe it's Medicare, small group and large group. And then the other companies are Optum, and they own multiple vendors that they use. So in order to, and that's one of the things that I really had some wanderings about is, okay, so if you're limiting what the insurance companies can make on the medical insurance, and then the insurance company owns their PBM, which is their pharmacy benefit management system, and they own the mail order pharmacy, so that when you have a very expensive prescription, you have to go through their mail order pharmacy. You have to buy it from them. Does that get included in the 85%? I think not, because they're all separate companies and they're doing separate balance sheets and they're doing everything is separate. They're operating with separate CEOs, different executive teams. Like I said, different balance sheets. So I would suspect that the profit margins under those companies are more than the UHC piece, but the UHC piece is the driver, right? The UHC piece is the client. They're the customer. They're the ones that bring the customers to the mail order pharmacy. If you sign up with UHC and you have a monthly injectable medication like an Ozempic or a Humira, something like that, that costs $1,000, $1,800 plus a month, you now have to go through Optum, or their, all the insurance companies do this. I mean, United, they all own their own PBM, right, and their own mail order pharmacy for the most part. So that in of itself is shady, in my opinion. The way that works, I think they should just all be separate companies and, compete in the marketplace with each other and not have forced, like, okay, we own this insurance company, therefore everybody at this insurance company has to use our mail order pharmacy. And by the way, we own the mail order pharmacy, and that mail order pharmacy doesn't really work for other companies except for self-funded folks. Like, I guess they work for self-funded folks probably, and things like that. But it just seems very not the way the law was intended. The law was intended to say, hey, all the costs that are encompassed within the owners. And the other thing is, if I'm a business owner and I don't want to fall under a large group category, because once you fall over the 101 employee mark, then you have to offer benefits, right? It's like a requirement. The insurance company, you get all these fines and there's this huge deal. And so if you don't do it, you really get some government boots up your ass. But Optum and UnitedHealthcare, like common ownership, like that doesn't matter. But if you're a small business that maybe has a restaurant, let's say I'm a small business owner, I have a restaurant and I have a tire shop and I have a local grocery store or local liquor store, and let's say the grocery store has 30 employees, the tire shop has 30 employees, and the restaurant has 50 employees, we'll add that all up. I now have 110 employees. So yeah, you add all those up, and now I have 110 employees. And according to the ACA, because everybody has common ownership, I have to put all those people together. Well, why doesn't the same rules apply for like a UnitedHealthcare group, a United Health group? That doesn't seem fair. And I think that that's one of the things that this awful incident has brought forward is all the denial rates, because I looked high and low for those numbers and I was not able to find them before all this happened. And now all of a sudden it's out in the ether, and I love the transparency. I really do like getting those numbers and having those numbers available to the general public. I also see the class, like I said, the class warfare is obvious. The difference between the small employer and the publicly traded company. Why is a small employer, you look at common ownership, but now for the large guys, common ownership is goes on for decades before they even get challenged as a monopoly. And we're forced to use your pharmacy and your PBM, and the way that the PBMs get reimbursed. Anyway, go watch my video about how the PBMs get kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies and all that. And then just in the way the murder was investigated, I know that if I got shot on the street, the FBI wouldn't be offering a $50,000 reward for leads for me. That wouldn't be happening. Or 10,000. I think it started with 10,000 and 50,000. I know a lot of times they don't even give the money; they just put it on the poster. And that lady that reported it at McDonald's, I know she's probably all excited. She thinks she's going to get $50,000, but they have to get through court. He has to get convicted. There's all these loopholes they have to jump through. And I know they usually don't pay it out at all. But still, I don't think any FBI agent would be writing $50,000 reward for, somebody shooting Melissa. And I believe that a murder happens every day in New York, and they were over there skimming the lake and the pond in Central Park with scuba gear, and ain't nobody seen that before. Where he's like, whoa, what are they doing? Oh, they're looking for evidence. Oh, well, wasn't somebody just murdered last week in the park and nobody cared? And, I thought about that 48-hour show where it's like, oh, the first 48. And I was thinking okay, if we don't catch this guy in the first 48, nobody's ever going to catch him. He's never going to be caught. It's just gone, and he's gotten away with it. It seemed like he was going to get away with it. He got away. He's had an exit plan, got rid of all the stuff. You would think he would have changed his clothes and everything. And don't know if things got planted on him or what happened, but people are scuba diving in Central Park, for this guy, and nobody's seen that before. So again, the class warfare, the class differences, the FBI is doing certain things for this CEO because, and NYPD, and probably any PD that was on a high profile case like this. I'm not just singling out that specific state. I'm sure it would happen in any state, is if a high profile figure gets murdered, they get everyone on the case, where little old me, everyone's like, oh yeah, well, murders go unsolved every day. It's like a really high statistic. I don't pretend to know the statistic, but I believe it's more than 50%. I think it's like 85% of murders like go unsolved. So anyway, those are my thoughts, and I think I have exhaustively gone over this, digested it. I'm sure there's more. I mean, I'm sure you could just study this thing inside and out, and the public response and the healthcare system for 10 years straight. It's just, like I said, very complicated. Go watch my other PBM video. I did an Ozempic video, Wegovy video. And if you like this kind of video, you might like that. And I'm going to continue to watch the ACA. I know Trump is talking about appealing it. There's all this chatter about what's happening with the subsidies and that. I did a video on that as well. I'm going to stay on that news definitely. It's very important to me and very imperative to my career and my clients. So I'm going to stay on top of that one. Thank you for hanging out until the end, and we'll see you next time.